4 o'clock in New York at a tumultuous and increasingly dangerous moment for the federal government and the country and the city of New York. 16 hours into a government shutdown and the prospect of the Trump administration using said government shutdown to finish what Elon Musk and his chainsaw started with mass firings that could further gut the federal government and potentially impair its ability to function. All that coming as Democrats have managed to stall a parallel effort by Team Trump to hold the safety and security of millions of Americans as ransom. Yesterday, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration from temporarily withholding federal funds to 10 blue states and the District of Columbia. Among those funds, more than $100 million that was bound for the New York Police Department, FDNY, and New York State police programs that have been put in place to fight terrorism in the days and months and years since the September 11th terrorist attacks. At stake, money that, according to the New York Times, quote, help fund bomb squads, canine teams, and chemical weapon detection. They help train officers to respond to an active shooter situation or collapsed building, and paid for intelligence analysts and for members of the National Guard standing watch at Grand Central Terminal. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul writing in a letter to Kristi Noem this, quote, while the Trump administration may talk tough, in practice, you have chosen to defund the counterterrorism efforts at the New York Police Department, at FDNY, New York State Police and law enforcement agencies from Long Island to Buffalo. You have ignored the National Counterterrorism Center's own determination that New York has been attacked by foreign or foreign-inspired terrorists nearly twice as many times as the next most targeted state. And these programs now on the chopping block have a proven track record of success. One NYPD official telling NBC News that the department has thwarted 71 plots against New York City since 9/11, and that they have flagged and uncovered threats against targets in other cities and states as well. So it's not just New York City that's being impacted. The governor of Massachusetts is warning that the cuts, if they go through, would affect information sharing among federal, state, and local agencies. It would make it harder for agencies obtaining equipment, and it could even affect response to active shooter situations. It is all part of a bigger effort, though, by Donald Trump and his administration to target cities and states that he doesn't like, the ones that refuse to bend to Trump's autocratic ambitions and unpopular policies, especially when it comes to mass deportations. The blue state attorneys general are suing to force DHS to hand over these grants. They were created and funded by Congress, by the way. They claim in a lawsuit that the funds originally bound for their states are instead going to states like North Carolina, Indiana, and Tennessee because the Trump administration believes those states are more aligned with the Trump agenda. These AGs aren't alone. This morning, more than 24 cities and counties in California and Washington state filed their own lawsuit against the Trump administration for demanding that the cities and counties cooperate with ICE in order to receive $350 million in grants. The Trump administration defunding the police and weakening national security is where we start today with senior political reporter for Axios, Alice Eisenstadt. Also joining us, former DHS chief of staff during Donald Trump's first term, Miles Taylor's back, and former assistant special agent in charge at the FBI, current fellow at Lawfare, Michael Feinberg, is here. We are excited to announce right now, right here, that he is now officially an MSNBC national security and intelligence analyst. Michael, welcome to the, I don't want to call it a dysfunctional family. It can be a chaotic family, but welcome to the team. We're lucky to have you. I start with you, and I think this is a good thing. So I'm going to put these pictures up in the spirit of trying to make this conversation bigger. Donald Trump has recently been enjoying New York City and all the kinds of events that are attracted to and only happen in New York City. Things like Yankees games and the Ryder Cup and the U.S. Open. And I wonder if you can just talk about how the NYPD counterterrorism programs, the funding for which they're trying to cut, help make the whole city and everybody in it and everyone that visits it safe.
Well, it's really almost disingenuous for us to talk about counterterrorism efforts as if they could be neatly demarcated between NYPD and FBI and DHS and the rest of both the state, city, and federal alphabet soup that runs around the island, and the outer boroughs, of course, as well. Because one of the real lessons that we learned the hard way after 9/11 was that for counterterrorism efforts to really be successful, to really get to the proverbial left of boom, as we used to say, you need to have state, federal, and local departments and agencies working hand in glove. But in order to do that, the state and local agencies generally do need a financial boost because they don't have the same resources as the federal government. So to take that away now is not just going to weaken New York City, it's going to weaken the entire United States counterterrorism apparatus.
And why would you do that? I mean, what would the law enforcement benefit be? I mean, obviously none, but why would you cut those programs?
The only explanation that makes sense to me is the one you already articulated and is being used as the basis of the attorneys general's suits, which is essentially that this is an attempt to punish blue states and blue cities. And there's a real irony because the Trump administration is making a lot of political hay talking about how disorderly and crime-ridden the major cities in America are. But at the same time, they're pulling away the rug in terms of offering them resources that could help ameliorate that supposed condition. Now, I think they're exaggerating. My family and I go to New York all the time, as well as, DC and Chicago and LA fairly regularly. And, they're not war zones like the president said yesterday, but they certainly do need federal funding to function efficiently and safely, as any city does. So it's not quite clear what this is other than an attempt to, as they say, own the libs in the blue cities.
Miles, I think you have spoken on this program in the past about witnessing efforts to do this with disaster relief funding. This is obviously taking something that diabolical, like depriving disaster relief from a natural disaster struck city or state to affirmatively cutting that city's or state's ability to fight terrorism, which has always until this moment been viewed as attacks or threats to the whole country. Donald Trump seeming to believe that terrorists would target just a city, not the country anymore.
It begs the question, Nicole, is your life worth less because you live in a blue state? And Donald Trump seems to be saying again and again, not just here, he seems to be saying that the answer is yes. Your life is worth less to him if you live in a blue state, whether it's your house burning down and the FEMA funds he wants to dangle to make you beg for them, or the counterterrorism funds, or the anti-violence violence prevention programs, all of those things. He's putting lives in blue states at greater risk by doing this. And he knows that these are programs that work. I know that because I've briefed him on that. I can remember his first U.S. terrorist attack as president when we were October 2017. There was an ISIS-inspired attack in New York City of a truck that mounted the sidewalk and mowed down cyclists. I think it killed 8 people, wounded a few dozen. And the response that we mounted as a country, not just in New York City, but in major cities around the country to prevent copycat attacks, was enabled by these types of grant funds, right? We saved lives. If this money is pulled back, we will lose lives. I feel confident in saying that. I feel dismayed in saying that, but people will die by pulling back this money. But Donald Trump is doing this with an array of government services. And as you noted, Nicole, we've talked about this for a few years, that if he returned, he was going to put the services that Americans depend on, especially in blue states, at risk. He was going to hold those services hostage as a way to try to coerce those people and their state and local leaders to do things the Trump administration wanted. But one last thing on this, Nicole. that I want to say is Michael pointed out an irony that Trump has been saying, these are crime-ridden places. Now he's pulling back the money that would make these places safer. It's actually even worse than that. Donald Trump is pulling back these counterterrorism funds, and within the past week, he's started to create an apparatus to designate left-leaning groups and Democrats as terrorists. You cannot overstate this here. He's pulling away money to protect them against terrorism, and he's trying to cast the political opposition as terrorists. This is, to me, completely absurd, and it actually does put people in vastly greater danger.